Hi, this is Mark Christensen with BIDimensions.com. Today I'd like to talk about the sort rows step in Pentaho PDI, also known as Pentaho Kettle. First, I'd like to remind you that more tutorials can be found at BIDimensions.com, as well as a free Pentaho PDI Getting Started mini course. It's a free 4-part course that will take you from installing PDI to getting something useful done. Okay, let's talk about the sort rows step. So here I've got a transformation up. I've got a data source here with some data from a text file and sort rows. So let's talk a little bit about why we would want to sort rows. Well, there are a few different reasons. One, because it looks better, because you want your output to be sorted, so maybe you can find the data you're looking for, so you don't have to go through all this stuff. It's already in the order you need. Another reason is that in Pentaho, when you're merging and joining data, quite often the data has to be pre-sorted. So you use the sort rows step and you sort all your data, and then you go ahead and merge it and join it. Another reason is sometimes you need to do groupings of your data. Maybe you want to take and look at the average population for the cities in a state. So you need to sort it so all the states are together. When you use one of those steps that needs to have sorted data, it'll come up and warn you as soon as you click OK on that step. It comes up and says, oh, by the way, don't forget, before you can merge this data, both sources have to be sorted. So it'll give you a heads up and give you a little bit of a warning there. So let's dig in and take a look at the sort rows step. First, we've got our data source here. I've got a text file here. Let's take a look at that a little bit. It's just a text file. Happens to be tab delimited. And let's look at the fields. We've got city and state and an estimated 2015 population and a census population from 2010, as well as a land area. So let's preview this so we get an idea of what the data looks like that we're working with. So here we have city, state, population, census, land area for a whole bunch of different cities. We've got, I guess we can't see it there. Let's move that over a little. 304. And so each state has several different cities in it. Well, not all of them, but most of them have more than one state that we have information for. So let's go ahead and we'll connect that to our sort row step. And I've already been messing with this. As you can see, some of the stuff's filled in. But let's look at some of the configuration options. Of course, we've got the name. We have a sort directory as well as a temp file prefix. Now, for things to be sorted, we have to have all the data together at once to sort it. And sometimes that takes up more space than we have available in memory. And so the sort rows step is smart enough to swap the data out to the disk. And this directory, the sort directory, is where it will place the temporary files that it uses to do that. The temp file prefix is also the prefix. It's the first 3 letters of the temporary file name that it uses that puts it, for the file that goes into the sort directory. Now, why do you need to control that? Well, most of the time you don't. I don't use it very often, but sometimes if I'm working on a large server, have a large amount of data, I have access to a virtual hard disk, and that's actually a bunch of memory on the machine that's made to look like a hard drive, but it's blazingly fast. And so if you want, you can set your sort directory to be that particular disk and that directory, and it will use that, and it speeds everything up. We also have control of the sort size, the rows in memory, and that's how many rows it puts in memory before it tries to swap stuff out. And that defaults to 1 million. I usually leave it at that. Sometimes I've played with it, kind of tinker with that a little bit, depending if you have millions and millions of rows, it might make sense, especially if you have a machine that has a lot of memory, you might be able to increase that. There's also the free memory threshold, and that allows you to adjust some of the memory configuration stuff for Java working underneath everything. That's the kind of thing you kind of play with. It's kind of it's not really clear cut when you go to play with it. You just kind of when you get into a lot of big data, you can tinker with that and kind of see where you get improvement. The compressed TMP files, if you want, you can have it compress the temporary files so they don't take up as much space on hard disk. I don't think I've ever used that, but it's nice to have. We also have the only passed unique rows. We'll come back to that. Down here we have what we want to sort by. So here we're sorting on the state. We're sorting ascending versus descending. We don't care about case, and it's not pre-sort. We'll come back to pre-sort later. So let's take a look at this, and we will see what the data looks like. You can see here that states are alphabetized, and although the cities are not within the state, we just have the states. We got Alabama, then Alaska, then a bunch of Arizona cities, and Arkansas, a bunch of California ones. So let's go in and make it so it's state, and then also the city will be alphabetized underneath that. Will be sorted by that. So let's pick this, and let's pick city, and we'll have that sorted ascending. Don't care about case. Set pre-sort to no, and take a look at it. And you'll now see that within Alabama, the cities are all in alphabetical order, sorted in ascending order, just like Arizona has them all, with Tempe and Tucson being the very last ones. Now let's go in and change this. Let's say we want by the estimated population, so we can see which one. Now I'm going to do this in descending order, so we can see the biggest first. So let's go look at this. And we can see in Alabama, the biggest city listed is Birmingham, then Montgomery, then Mobile, then Huntsville. And in Arizona, it's Phoenix, then Tucson, then Mesa, and so forth. Now, I also wanted to talk about the only passed unique rows. A lot of times you've got data coming in, and you want to only have one row for any particular field. So let's get rid of this population down here. Let's say we only want one row for each state. So let's take a look at that. Now you'll see for each state we only have one row. We don't necessarily get to control what city is here or its population or any of that kind of stuff. It just guarantees that there's only one Alabama, only one Alaska, one Arizona. There are times when you're working with data that you just want to make sure you don't have multiple rows, and it doesn't necessarily matter which one you get there. So, okay, let's go back in. I also wanted to talk about the pre-sorted. Sometimes when you have a lot of data that you're bringing in, you will have one field that will be already sorted, or several rows that will already be sorted, maybe when you pull it from your database. And you're planning on doing some sort of a grouping function where maybe you're have a bunch of information coming in by, let's say, state and city. Maybe you have multiple rows for each city, and you want to group on that. But maybe you'd end up doing by state and by city, and you'd have multiple entries for a city, for instance. But maybe the stuff coming in is already sorted by state. Well, if the database already sorted it by the state for you, there's no reason for you to sort on state again. So if you're in that situation, doesn't necessarily happen often, but you can gain some speed advantages by telling it that state is already pre-sorted. Now the cities might not be, so you might want to tell it that the cities are not pre-sorted, but maybe the state is pre-sorted. So that's what the pre-sorted is used for. Not something you necessarily use a lot, but it's kind of good to know. So I think that's about it for the sort rows. I'd like to remind you to stop by bidimensions.com for more Pentaho PDI tutorials, as well as the free PDI Getting Started mini course. Thanks for your time and attention. Bye-bye.